failed Nintendo consoles. Okay, I guess that's another one off the list. What do I do now?
Wait a minute.
What?
You forgot a console.
What do you mean? I listed all of them.
This comment says you didn't do the Pokémon Mini.
What does Pokemon being small have to do with anything? Yeah, I think we all forgot this existed. The Pokemon Mini is a console exclusively centered around Pokemon. Looking at the system itself, it's freaking small. An impressive feature for the time was its use of a real-time clock in a couple games. Like, no real handheld really had anything like this at the time. It wasn't the first Nintendo thing to use a real-time clock. Heck, not even the first one that year with the GameCube releasing with a normal menu. But for a thing that looks like this, it's impressive nonetheless. Its battery life was also 60 hours. I mean, look at this thing. I feel like it's underpowered enough to not die too quickly. It had 12 games in total. However, only 4 were released in North America and 5 in Europe. And the reason was poor sales, because compared to Game Boy Advance, which was released earlier that year, there was barely any value to this. It was exclusively Pokemon-related games, so really no variety, compared to, again, the Game Boy Advance. Well, let's just take a look at the games available in North America and Europe to get my point across. Pokemon Party Mini. It's a minigame collection. Let me just go over the minigames real quick. Pikachu's Rocket Start, a game where you put Pikachu and other Pokemon in a race against each other. Basically, your job is to tell Pikachu to start running whenever the system rumbles, and you have to get him to start running at the perfect time. Slowking's Judge. It takes place in a tennis court, apparently. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to tell without Wikipedia. I can barely tell where this is based on the visuals. Basically, you have to make a correct call on where the tennis ball will land. Chansey's Dribble, a game where you kick the soccer ball into the goal as quick as you can. Blossom's Dance. Basically, the aim of the game is to replicate the Blossom's dances for as long as you can. Hitmonchan's Boxing. I don't know how to say that. Don't judge me. Basically, shake the system a crap load and you can get points in a boxing match against a Machop. Except when the system rumbles and the Machop is fighting back. Meaning, yeah, maybe you have to stop giving yourself whiplash for a sec. And lastly, a multiplayer game. Sneasel's Fake Out. There's 2 Sneasels that are playing a game of basketball. One on defense and one on offense. The offense uses the D-pad to decide which way to get around the defense, and the defense uses the D-pad to determine where to go to block the offense. It's mostly based off chance. Yeah, this game has very simple minigames, but I'm sure I would have loved a game like this when I was a kid. Pokemon Pinball Mini, essentially a new version of a similar game, Pokemon Pinball, on the Game Boy Color. Yeah, this is Pokemon Pinball, not really much to say here. What you see is what you get. Pokemon Puzzle Collection. It's a game where you connect puzzle pieces of Pokemon characters. That's the whole game. Again, not really much to say here. Pokemon Zany Card is a strategy card game. It's probably the most in-depth game on the system, but not overly complicated. And honestly, doesn't really look that fun to me personally. And that was everything released in North America. And there was one more game in Europe, Pokemon Tetris. This is just straight up Tetris.
You'd still play it for hours, don't lie.
You know what? You're not wrong. Man, that's such a bleak selection of games. No wonder this thing was such a failure. I feel like this, more than any Nintendo console, feels merely like a toy. Although, I probably would have loved something like this as a kid. But 4 games in North America just missing Tetris? Yeah, no, I don't think I would have played it for very long. And even if Tetris came over, I don't think I would have been the type of kid to get into Tetris at that point in time. But that's not counting the Japan exclusives. And maybe they won't give much more value, but hey, it's worth giving them a fair shot. Pokemon Puzzle Collection Volume 2. It's the exact same game with more puzzles and a couple other modes. What do you want me to say? Pokemon Race Mini, where you race another Pokemon as Pikachu. It's less like Pikachu Rocket Start and more like Sonic 3's competition mode in a strange way. Pikachu Bros Mini, basically a sequel to Pokemon Party Mini. Let's go over the minigames then. Skateboard Pichu is an endless runner with Pichu on a skateboard. Magby's Hot Air Balloon, where the player is tasked to land a hot air balloon without crashing it into the ocean. Pop-Up's Jump. Yeah, it lives up to the name. You're jumping quite a lot. Okay, I don't care if this is wrong. Tedursa's Shaking Fruits, a game where you shake your console to eat fruit in the fastest amount of time. Smoochum's Angel Kids? Smoochum's Angle Kiss. Basically, it's whack-a-mole, but you kiss Diglett. Kinda weird concept, and honestly kinda weird Pokemon too, like it evolves into Jinx. There is no controversy centered around that Pokemon in particular at all. And Cubone's Bone Fight, a game where you shake the system to make sure your bone hits the target. This game was actually a little better than Pokemon Party Mini. Still simple as heck though. Togepi's Great Adventure. Well, anyway, it's a game that's honestly kind of intriguing. You're rolling through these maze-like levels, avoiding obstacles, and sometimes even trying to hit Pokemon out of your way to the end. It's interesting to say the least. And finally, Pokemon Breeder Mini. Hold up, can I show this? Yeah, you can. The Pokemon don't bang. Oh, thank God. It's a game that has you have a Pokemon as a pet, kind of like a Tamagotchi, but for Pokemon. You can feed your Pokemon and play with it to keep it happy. Yeah, this is cool and all, but come on, Nintendogs exist. Can I play that instead?
Sad to hear you're more of a dog person than a Mudkip person.
Sad to hear that. I don't care.
You really gotta work on your comebacks. That was incredibly weak.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, that was everything. Maybe in Japan it has a little more worth with all the exclusive games, but to me it went from having as much worth as a car, with the wheels missing, and the steering wheel missing, and the windows missing, and it looks like it hasn't been cleaned in 50 years, to being about as worth as a Virtual Boy, which I think, as you know, didn't hold much worth to begin with. But yeah, this is all coming from a guy who's only beaten one Pokemon game, so maybe my opinion doesn't even matter.
I see you forgot Pokemon Tetris exists.
Oh yeah! Never mind, I take that back. It's worth every cent.